Sean from Time and Talk. Today I wanted to make a video about the watches of a particular country. In this case it's France. I am a big fan of French culture, a Francophile, though if I say it like that it sounds a bit like an insult, and I thought I'd share my love for these two French brands. And it's a bit different, I guess, to the normal kind of Rolex and videos of brands such as that. You may have heard of these watches before, or these brands, you may not have done. But I have done a quick survey of YouTube, particularly on one of the brands, and there's very few videos out there on this brand. So, you may be thinking about buying one, they still exist, and this may help. If you like my channel, please subscribe, every little helps, and I do want the channel to grow, so please hit that subscribe button in the corner of the screen. So, the two brands that I wanted to talk about are brands called Yema and Lip. So, two French brands that, do not have the Swiss made on their dial and things like that. Proudly French, or to a certain extent, not as French as they used to be maybe, but yeah, so first of all, Yema. This company has existed since 1948, and it does have a fair bit of history behind it. And the particular model that I wanted to focus on, a model that I've been looking at a little bit, is the Superman. So this is a dive watch, a vintage inspired, well, it's a reissue of a vintage piece from the 60s, and it's got a kind of Submariner-esque kind of 1960s dive watch look. And we'll put a picture on the screen. You can get various versions on the Yema website. The particular one that I like is one called the Heritage, which has a kind of faux patina and things like that on it. It's a nice size at 39mm. You can get a 41 as well. And what's particularly interesting about this watch, I think, is that it has a really strange bezel action. So the bezel is actually held in place when the crown is screwed down by a little notch that prevents the bezel from moving, which is pretty cool, a little bit different. Some would say impractical because you've got to actually unscrew the crown to work the bezel, but as a safety feature it's quite cool. It's something a little bit different. This watch I think is pretty good value, and it's something that you don't really hear that much about in the watch forums and things like that. It's it's all about other brands. This one though is a little bit more popular, I think, on YouTube than the two other watches we're going to look at. To me it seems like a great watch, really nice size, pretty understated. You could wear it with pretty much anything. A nice vintage inspired sports watch. Again, you should check it out. Yema are the brand. The second brand that I wanted to look at were a brand called Lip. So Lip are another French brand that have existed since 1893, so they've got a long and storied history really. But I think in relation to this brand, I think they've been forgotten about in some instances outside of France. I know that when I go to France quite regularly, and you do see their watches quite regularly in kind of department stores and things like that, so you don't see them in, it's not a high-end brand anymore, if you like. But I think they make quite interesting watches. A lot of their watches nowadays, the good ones anyway, some of them are hideous, tend to be based on watches that they've formally released, so vintage reissues essentially. But vintage reissues in the sense that you probably won't have seen from some other brands. So the first watch is called the Nautic-Ski. So I'll put a picture of this up on the screen. This was a super compressor diver that was released in 1967, and a bit of research for this video, maybe you should know this, but a super compressor is a dive case with a double crown, so that the bezel's on the inside of the case, and also the case mechanism means that it's actually more water resistant the deeper you go, so it's a form of protection against getting water in your watch essentially. But this one, the Nautic-Ski, is a really nice watch. You can get it in a few different sizes. The one that I would go for is the 38mm version. I'll put a picture up here. First time I ever saw this watch, I was in Paris, and I was in one of the museums, and they had it for sale, and it's €330. And I wanted to buy it at the time, but I didn't, and I never thought about it again really. But it's been coming up a little bit more when I've been on holiday and things like that. It's an automatic watch. It's got, I think it's a Miyota movement. I think it's €499. You literally can't get them in Britain. I'm not sure about America and other places. but I think this is a really nice watch. Tell me what you think. It's like a funky size, a kind of interesting design, but not too wacky. The next piece might be a little bit too wacky for some people, so I'd definitely check that out. I really like this brand. The second watch is called the Mach 2000. I think this might be one of the most famous watches that Lip ever made, really, and it was released in 1973, and it's a typically 70s watch, as you'll see from the picture that I'll put up on the screen. A guy called Roger Talon designed it, and he was the designer of the TGV, the trains on the French train system. So he's a really famous industrial designer, and it's got a really interesting case shape, really interesting design with the multicolored. It's a chronograph, by the way, the multicolored pushers, and it's almost a work of art. I think this watch, it's so much almost a work of art that I would find it personally difficult to wear in normal settings, but it's a lovely watch. I mean, the original watch had a Valjoux movement in it, the 7734, which is apparently a really reliable and robust movement, and I'm kicking myself in a way because over the last few months there was one of these on eBay, and it was the original from the 70s. There was a little bit of damage to one of the crowns, but it was £800, and I wanted to buy it. My wife would not let me, so you can blame her for that, but that was so worth it. The modern versions are quartz, and they, you know, to cut costs and things like that, I think it's about €400, and you know, it's a faithful reproduction, if you like, of the 70s version, but it won't have the romance of the, you know, the manual wind movement and things like that. The only thing to be aware with this watch is it is very idiosyncratic, so actually wearing it, you probably got to be a bit of a wacky person to pull this one off. But tell me what you think of this watch. So yeah, that's just a short video about a couple of French brands that I think are worth checking out. A little bit of something different away from the Rolex and Omega and things like that. This would be, I think, quite a good series, you know, watches from various countries that are perhaps a little bit overlooked. Tell me what you think of the watches in the video, what your favourite brands are that perhaps are a little bit out of the ordinary, and if you like my channel, please subscribe, and thanks